Good evening. I know it's been a long day for some of you guys, so I'll keep it as fun and as short as possible because I know we got other presentations to go through. My name is Joseph Vela. I work with the Quarterback Ranch. I'm going to go ahead and pass out my business cards. Everyone can get one. Don't know if you can call internationally, but you can sure email me if you need something. 2. Yep. Got one? 2. Thank you. 3. 2. 2, 1 for my man. 3, 4. Good. All right. So as you see up here, I have speed and agility. Now, I covered that last week, and I think we're going to offer that to people to buy. So I'm going to recap it because what I'm doing today is an extension of this first one. Okay? Now, after all my speed and agility presentations, I do have a speed and agility packet that I sell. Last year, I sold it for 30 euro. This year, I'm doing it for 20 euro. Okay? So a little bit cheaper. I'm going to pass it around so you can go ahead and look at it. The first page is top speed. Second page is acceleration. No, acceleration is the first page, top speed is the second page, and agility is the third page. So it's a great investment for your club, for your team. For only $20, you can print it out and copy it for all your coaches or whatnot. And a question that someone always asks is, well, how often do we do it? During season, 1 to 2 times a week, whenever you can fit it in. I know you have practice and games to worry about, but off season I say 3 to 5 times. Okay, because we all know that speed kills on the football field. Go ahead and follow me on IG, Instagram, if you have that. Okay, so just going to run through this real fast. Why is it important? Speed kills. We do combine tests to see where our athletes at, see if they've been busting their butt all off season or if they've just been sitting on the couch. All positions need it. Linemen, they might not need to worry about top speed so much, but they do need to accelerate when they're pulling and getting to the next level, things like that. So it's always good. These are quick details. When you work, no matter what you do, whether you're cleaning your house, changing your oil in your car, or working for, as yourself to be a better athlete, we got to pay attention to detail, right? You're an artist, pay attention to all the detail, and when you're painting your portrait. Toes up training. Whenever we train, we got to have toes up, not down, twinkle toes. Ignition training. You see a lot of guys, we see it all the time. They have puppet arms where they always move the same side. We don't run like that. You got to control and have that opposite arm, opposite leg relationship. So I call it ignition training because your body is a vehicle. It's going to take you from point A to point B. All right? But before your engine takes off, you got to turn on the ignition. And this is your body's ignition, is your arms. You don't see Usain Bolt, the fastest man in the world, just run like this down the track. He's using his arms. Okay? Opposite arm, opposite leg training. Deceleration training. I'm a big firm believer in that. We always work on going, taking off, run, but we never work on stopping. So I know that you guys have linebackers that can move, but then they over pursue. All right? Like running back makes a move and your guy goes straight past him because he doesn't know how to break down and decelerate. Very important. Acceleration is the first, when we're talking about the 40-yard dash, it's the first 0 to 10 yards. Sometimes it extends to about 15 yards. You want to stay low at a 45. Notice how his toe is kind of down, but he might be on the downward phase, but we want that toe up. He's got good ignition right here. He's got a good lean. It's a pushing action. You're driving, you're pushing off the ground. High force, you're really creating force driving off. But the leg cycles are still kind of slow until you get to top speed. Speed is a skill. It has been broken down to a science. And I've sadly had to learn that science. Here's some drills to do. It's just a wall push. You have your athlete on a wall, working on that 45-degree lean. Knee up, a forward action. We're pushing off the ground, and our toes should be a little higher than that, but that's pretty good. All right, and you're just driving against the wall, exchanging knee drives. You can work on various starts, which you guys do. The only thing you need to add is have them stop on a dime. So have them do a push-up start, a mountain climber start, a kneeling start where they take off, but then also have them break down at the end of that run. Play cat and mouse where you have your receivers chased by your DBs on whatever, or a linebacker chasing a running back, whatever it is. Top speed is the second half, right? When you finish the race, It's the last 20 to 40 yards. It's a pulling action. You're using your hamstring. You look at those NFL running backs or receivers that run 4.4s, their hamstrings are huge because it's pulling against the ground as they're running. Now you have high force and you have high frequency because your cycles are going super fast. Agility, or COD, COD, change of direction. Okay, you got to have a strong core. Not to poke fun or anything like that, but that's why linemen, they're just not as agile and quick because they don't have that solid core, all right? You see a lot of the smaller, shiftier guys with a nice six-pack. So we got to have a strong core for that. Body position dictates body direction. Each one of these guys, he's cutting that way. So look at his body. He's leaning that way. This guy, he's cutting this way. Look at his body. This group of guys, they're cutting to change direction, so their body's leaning that way. Same thing with him. Okay, a lot of guys, they want to touch the line and they're leaning the wrong way. I got to go that way, so I need to lean that way. You save time on your agility, your 5-10-5 and your L drills. So that's the change of direction position. Or the speed skater position, you're here, very simple drill. I want to run that way, now I want to run that way. Boom, very simple. Young kids, undeveloped guys, they don't understand that. That was that. Again, follow me on Instagram or our team. Any questions about speed and agility real quick before we get to the actual presentation? No? Again, I'm passing down that paper, $20 investment. I have a whole stack of them. I don't plan to go back to America with them, so take them off my hands, please. Here we go. This is the main thing. Static versus dynamic stretching, okay? Seems like a very boring topic, but I know a lot of teams overlook this, all right? Not only is it a way to warm your team up or to cool your team down, but it's a very great way to treat your body right. You guys know, as you've gotten older, you get out of bed and it's like, oh man, I'm tight. When you're 4 or 5 years old, you can just pop out of bed and do whatever you want to do, all right? Treat your athletes right with the proper stretching, when and when not to do it, before or after practice or whatever. It'll help the longevity of your athletes. Very important. Shouldn't be overlooked. Here we go. Dynamic warm-up. All dynamic means is moving in space, okay? So a lot of our older coaching, older styles would do static stretching, which is just where you stand in place and you hold the muscle group. Hold the muscle group. That's very good stretching. We'll talk about it later. But dynamic is moving. So here are two basic ones. Here's a push-up with a plank twist. Push up, twist. He's moving in space. Okay? Everybody should be able to get out of bed and do somewhat of a push-up and a twist. Okay? Here's a squat. Very simple. Those are all the points if you want to look at it. I don't have time to go through it. Just make sure you're sitting down, butt back. Heels are flat on the ground, or foot's flat on the ground, pushing off your heels. Keep your chest up. Okay, why do we need to do it? Why is it important? One.
When you take the arm into the air, you look to the ground or you look to the air?
Depends on you. This guy here is looking down. He's probably never been told to look up, but you can tell I always tell my athletes, look up, follow your hand.
Okay.
I like to do that, but you don't have to. Okay, so why do we need a warm up dynamically? For one, it enhances performance. All right? There's been a study with LSU, the team LSU Tigers, with their track team. Their coaches had the sprinters run some sprints and took time on it. All right? They did that for a week they did a test 1 week doing static stretching where they would stretch like this before practice. And then they did another one where they did A skips and side skips and shuffles, moving dynamically. All the athletes said they felt better and more loose with the static stretching, but they all had slower times after they did static stretching. Okay? So, yes, you'll feel better. You'll feel more loose, but you're actually overstretch your muscle. So when you need it to sprint a 4.4 or have your linebacker pursue downhill or an angle, they're actually slower. Their performance has gone down because they've stretched the wrong way, okay? So if we still have our guys before games really holding that long stretch, we're kind of minimizing their performance. We want to maximize their performance, okay? Secondly, it minimizes injury. It's been proven that way, that you will minimize injury more so warming up dynamically, moving in space. You'll also build mobility if you're doing it correctly. Again, going back to the first topic, speed and agility, attention to detail. All right, yes, I can do A skips here. I'm not working on range of motion, or I can get all the way up. Keep continuing hip mobility, shoulder mobility, all those things. I got to build mobility. How long should it take? Depending on your squad, depending on time for practice that you're pressed for, you're looking for 10 to 15 minutes. You can really get a sweat going in 10. You can really get a good mobility builder and performance enhancer with about 15 minutes. So was everyone here today at our session this morning? First today? Most of you guys were. You saw how we did all those exercises. It took a little time, yes. We didn't necessarily have any injuries after that, but I got one kid to overheat and he kind of threw up, but that might have been other things. I think he had a concussion or something like that. But either way, that's the whole purpose. Why do we need 10 to 15 minutes to warm up, coach? I can just start running routes and I can do other stuff. Well, for one, I need to wake up my CNS, my central nervous system, which is my brain and my spinal cord. Okay, you guys know waking out of bed, it takes you a little while to get going. Oh, I need my coffee. I need to put some water on my face. Because you're trying to excite the body and wake it up. Okay, you can't just have a kid come out cold. Oh, we're going to run past it, we're going to run routes, we're going to go. His body's not awake yet. Think of your brain sends messages to your body, we get that, but it sends it through your spinal cord. So think of your spinal cord as the Autobahn, which you guys haul ass on really, which is cool. But you want your spine to be an Autobahn that's just moving at full speed. There's no traffic jams, there's no stops, there's no one slowing you down. You want those messages going super fast to your body. So when we run a 440 or 5-10-5, when our brain's sending messages to drive out and cut and stop, you got a nice passageway down your spinal cord that's sending out the messages. Even when you lift, even when you go to school, some of y'all are still in school, you need to wake up your central nervous system. And then your body will follow. You also need to send blood flow to the muscle fibers. You guys are sitting down, you don't have blood flow that much to your calves or your quads right now because you're sitting down. You don't need it. But if I got you up and said run a 40, you're gonna be like, hold on, I need to warm up a little bit, I need to stretch. You see track guys do that all the time. They slap their thighs. Even bodybuilders, they slap everything to wake it up. They're trying to get blood flow that way. So that's why we got to do it. My biggest thing for young athletes, all right, even some adults, I see it all the time, the exercises that we do, just simple squats. And I'll show you what low pogos are. You guys know what jumping jacks are. Simple movements like this help an athlete learn his or her body. Everybody has a different body. My man right here does not move the same like I do. I do not move the same like this dude, and you don't move the same as anybody else here. We all have different bodies. Some of our hips are off. Some of our ankles have been broken. Some of our shoulders are thrown out. We have to learn our body. And a dynamic stretch allows you to do that. All right. So this is not so much for football related, but you guys also are kind of in charge of the strength and conditioning somewhat and conditioning. This is a very basic thing that I do with all my athletes before their speed and agility session. Again, I do coach receivers, quarterbacks, and I can work with all skill, but my main purpose at Quarterback Ranch is the speed and agility coordinator. So I have a lot of athletes. I have 4-year-old kids all the way up to college kids, boys and girls that come to me for speed and agility. So before we can get into our sprinting, we obviously need to warm up. And a lot of those warm-ups, A-skips, high knees, those are speed mechanics. So I can't just send the kid in to do his speed mechanics and expect him to get faster. I need to have him warmed up so when we hit those speed mechanics, he's giving me full speed, and then we can go to our actual workout. So this is like the warm-up to the warm-up, basically, okay? And it's a circuit fashion. It's fast. I tell my athletes all the time, the only way to get faster is to move faster. There's no way to be fast and you're constantly always chilling, always walking around, sluggish. You're going to be slow all your life. I need you to hustle. I need you to move faster. So I'll have them do 10 squats, perfect squats, 10 of them, all the way up, all the way down. Have them breathe for about 5 seconds. Then I have them do low pogos. That's a good central nervous system builder. Again, we're trying to wake up the brain. This is what it looks like. You have them in a linebacker, athletic position, and they're just vibrating on the ground. Their feet are coming off on the pad of their feet, and their hands are driving in the ground. 5 to 10 seconds. It's a very small movement. It's quick, and you're just trying to wake up the brain and the spine. So you do 10 seconds worth. Then you go 10 jumping jacks. Then you go to 10 seal jacks. All that is just here. Jumping jacks out to the side. 3 by 10. I guarantee you if I ran you all through that, you'd be like, ooh, I'm breathing heavy already. You might not be sweating yet because blood's still kind of getting there, but you'd be breathing heavy. Then we go right into this one, gate swings. This is where I'm getting to with learning your body, how to move it. Your elbow joint. This joint right here can only do one thing, flex. It can extend, but what happens if I kept going? It's gonna snap, right? So it really only does one. But what about our hip? Our hip can move all over the place. It can go up, it can extend back, it can come out to the side, it can make a big circle, right? A lot of kids, they don't understand how to move that. So we want them to be a linebacker and open up and fly to the ball and then come back downhill, but they've never worked on their hip movement. They haven't learned it yet. So gate swings is a good one. This is all you do. I'm gonna use this for example. There's a circle, I'm not gonna step in it. I'm gonna start with a closed gate, right? We never wanna walk through a closed gate because you're gonna hit the damn gate. You gotta open it up. So if my toes are in, that means my knees are in, that means my hips are in. I can't squat, my gate's closed. But if I pop open, now my toes are open, my knees are open, I can sit. So just that right there, twisting, closing my gate and opening my gate has a young kid, light bulbs go off. Oh, my hip does that, it moves, it can open. Now I can open up, I know how to use my hip for certain things. And it's a good warm-up drill. High pogos, different from low pogos. Here's low pogos, here's high pogos. Jumping up, using your arms, getting your body going, waking up the central nervous system. Rotating plank, that's that one. Again, you can look up, I like doing that. Flings, that's another central nervous system. It's kind of like jumping jacks, a little opposite. I'm here, I'm gonna cross my body. You have kids do this, next thing you know, they're tripping over themselves. They can't do it. It's a very simple movement. Looks dumb. Is it football related? Not really. But we gotta learn how to move our body. That's why we have it on there. So it's a dynamic warm up. Now, this is more football related right here. We always do this pre-practice, by the way. Again, pre-practice, we want to enhance performance for practice. Pre-game, you want to enhance your performance and minimize injury. Meanwhile, building mobility and doing all this stuff. Okay? On that paper that I passed around, you'll see on there I have the warm-up that I showed you before, and then I have the dynamic warm-up, so for about 15 to 20 yards. For this example, we're working on linear acceleration, okay? Straight line, accelerating. Not the top speed, not lateral movement, just linear. First one would be a knee hug. Speed is indicated by hip flexion, having great hip flexion, while maintaining stability. You have a young, undeveloped athlete do this alone, the higher their knee goes, the weaker their leg goes. The lower their knee goes, well, the better they go. I gotta have both. I gotta have good hip flexion while maintaining stability. So, walking knee hug. Walk, hug your knee. You're building mobility, and you're already training your athlete to work on lower leg stability. Again, keep their chest up. You'll see a lot of young kids do this. I don't want to bend and break. Look at my leg. Stay up tall. Walking knee hug. Next is ankle tug. It's a different rotation of the hip. By the way, perfect. Chest up, looking forward. Knee, look at that knee flexion. That's pretty stabilized. That's pretty straight. Look at this clown. That's pretty good. He's crunched over, back's arched a little bit. Broken leg. I don't want broken legs when I run. I want strong legs when I run. There's a difference. I guarantee you, if we were to replay some of the warm-ups we did today, you'll see a lot of this. It's not going to make you faster. You're not doing it right, basically. You're going through the motions like this. Attention to detail. That right there will get him better. That right there is just going to warm him up. Big difference. I'm trying to get faster every day. That's the A skip. All right, here we go. Ankle tug. Different rotation of the hip. I'm going to grab my shin. I'm going to grab my heel. So work on the same things. All right, good hip mobility. Chest is open, maintaining balance on my bottom leg. Switch sides. Always step forward. Damn it. All right, lunge to instep. It's a big one. I think this is good for all athletes, especially those that have really tight hips, linemen, guys that can squat really heavy, they're really tight on here. That's fine, you gotta be strong, but you also gotta be able to move. So lunge to instep. I'm gonna lunge forward, hands go to my instep. Push your hip down, stretch. You can even add a twist if you want. Come back down, next foot, over, lunge, instep. It's a really good stretch. This is a side view right here, out. Back leg is straight, front toes are forward. You'll see a lot of athletes do this. Look at my back foot. They move it open. Why? Because they don't have that mobility right here. It burns a little bit. It's tight to keep it straight. All right, sprinter marches. The reason why I have sprinter marches on here, and I usually do for all my younger athletes, but as soon as they get it, I kind of skip over it because I know we're always pressed for time. We always have an hour, maybe an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours. Sprinter marches. Before I get out in space and do my A-skips or high knees, I want to see if they can just look good marching, using good arm mechanics. Toes up, knee up. You'll see a lot of guys that have no arm, toe down. That's not good, going through the motions. I need to see everything marching. Sprinter lunges. It's a lunge, but just not your typical weight room lunge. That's a very good lunge. You're gonna get stronger, but are we getting faster or are we focusing on the details? This is what it looks like. You come up to your toe. Again, how high, how much hip flexion can I have while maintaining stability? So I'm gonna get as high as I can, kind of like this guy, but instead of holding my knee, I'm gonna have it here. And then I'm gonna sink into it, boom. All the way up, boom. Those are sprinter lunges. I should be moving straight. Sink into it. Weaker guys, they'll get right here, bend, put their foot down, and that's their lunge. You guys see it all the time. A-skip, this is a good one. You see it pretty much every team do it. That's pretty much what these guys are doing. All right? A position, and then you skip. Focusing on being fast and powerful off the ground. You see a lot of kids either not use their arms properly, and if they do use their arms properly, they're not trying to work like a machine. They're not working fast. They're working like a little girl that's skipping in the park trying to pick up flowers. There's a big difference. That can warm me up. That's not going to get me faster. That's not going to help me be a better athlete. Secondly, I'll say that at the end of this. Back pedal. If I run forward, I'm leaning forward, I'm driving my knees, splitting my thighs, right? If you push pause, reverse, it's the same thing going back. Running forward, running backwards is pretty much the same thing. A lot of people don't think it is. They lean this way, little baby steps, that's their back pedal. Well, I don't run like this forward, all right? I run big strides, so it's the same thing going back. Learn that. Back pedal's big time. Obviously, we need to drop into coverage, things like that. Reverse lunges. Same thing. Come all the way up, split, sink into it. Come all the way up, split, sink into it. Notice how my arms are moving, always. Always working on magnition. Bounding. Most of us know what this is. All bounding is a very pretty run, a very, like a prance almost. So I got to use all my mechanics, but I'm not just running. I'm extending my stride. I'm trying to build my stride. The fastest guy in the NFL, fastest guys in the NFL, they take 17 steps to finish 0 to 40 yards. The guys that take 18 steps, they run a 4.7. The guys that take 19 steps run a 4.9. It just, the least amount of steps you take, the faster you are. So you got to work on that stride. A bound looks, float in the air. You hold it for a little bit longer. I took 2 strides. I ate up what, 10 yards, 8 yards? And then I do an acceleration running progression. Mostly for my more advanced, my more in shape guys. Because by this point, if you've done the first warm-up, 3 sets of 10 circuit fashion, 3 sets of 10 circuit fashion. You should be breathing hard. You should be starting to break a little sweat. Now we get to this for 15 yards, focusing on the knee hug, focusing on the details. Look at me right now, and I'm inside. I'm already kind of sweating because I'm doing it right. I'm using my muscles. I'm exercising properly on my speed mechanics. And if you do it right, you should be breathing hard. So I don't just give this to anybody. I give this to my guys that can handle it. And all the progression is 60 yards, and it's a buildup. For the first 5, I have them focus on quick steps. This is kind of hard to do at first, but once you get it down, it's a very good training tool. Again, the only way to get faster is to move faster. Okay, so yes, I need to have a good hip flexion. All right, and I'm always preaching that to my kids. That's why we have the knee hugs. That's why we have the lunge. That's why we have the sprinter, all these things with good hip flexion. But after it's warmed up, now I want to see my smaller muscle fibers, my hip flexor, my groin. I want to see those crank up, and I'm trying to build those up. So the first part of the running progression is 5 yards, and it's called a quick step. So instead of doing a big old high knee, I'm going to do a quick step. Break down. Always working on the deceleration. And you do that for another 5 yards. Young kids, they kick out. They do all kinds of stuff. I need them to run, but a quick step. Okay? The next progression is high knee. So I have them quick step slowly into a high knee. They build, they transition into it. Okay? And then the last thing they do from the high knee is just sprint out. So 5 quick step, 10 high knees, 45 yards of sprinting. Question?
Yeah. Is it okay to take an extra step between each rep, for example, at the knee hug?
Yeah, you can. That's fine. But I just wasted a yard or two. So if you're doing 10 yards of warm-up, they're only going to get 2 or 3 reps. If you have 20 yards of warm-up, that's fine. You can walk. Okay? But you'll see some kids going through the motions. They're tired. They don't want to get better. You know what I'm saying? And they eat it all up. So know your kids. Push them through it. This is a speed and agility type dynamic warm-up. The next slide is more of a football-specific pre-game, pre-practice type deal. So A skips, we have it on here. Walking knee hug, again, you want to be up tall, powerful leg. This is a reverse lunge. They're really working on that hip extension. These guys are actually getting overhead reach. I did that today with some of the guys. Some kids, man, they're here. They think they're down, and they're like this, and then they fall over. Can't have that. You got to know how to move your body. Keep your knee down while you reach up. These are mummy skips. Stretching that hamstring out, working on hip flexion. You got to have good hip flexion while maintaining stability. This guy's doing it pretty damn good. I'm not worried about the front leg. I'm worried about that bottom leg. This is actually really good. Straight, hip flexion, his chest is up, powerful leg. This is the crab walk. That's more for like I have it on my sheet for an agility day, working lateral. They're just working, sending blood flow and whatnot, but they're staying low. Okay, so all these things, I'm not making it up. Colleges do it. Professional programs take this serious. There's ways to instill discipline just by your warm-up. You can tell, you guys know it. You can tell when the team's ready to practice by the way they warm up, by the way they show up and they're strapped up on the toes behind the line, ready to go. Or are they showing up late, unstrapped, just falling in motion, going in motion. You know when it's going to be a good day of practice. You know when they're ready to go play just by the way they warm up. It's also, there's teams that we played against where you're kind of like, damn, those guys, you're trying to get your stretch in, but you're like, damn, those guys are focused. Those guys are ready here, they're ready to play. They look like a program. They sound like a program. They move like a program. They haven't even snapped the ball yet. So here's the dynamic warm-up. This is what we did in college. For sure as hell, by the time we got done in Texas heat, we were sweating our ass off ready to go. It was hot, and if you took this stuff seriously, you're killing multiple birds with one stone. You're warming your athletes up. You're building mobility, all that crap, yes. You're preventing injury and all that stuff. But you're setting the tone. You're setting the tone with the tempo. Our coach, he would not blow the whistle for the next line until everybody's toes were behind the line. If one guy's foot was on the line, he would call him out. We'd have some extras. We'd have reminders. He would make sure that we were on point. We were setting the tone for practice. This is an example. Look at the football field. We would start on the sideline. We would have a captain on the 10, the 20. I'll use this. The 10, the 20, the 30, and then we would have lines, just like most of you guys do. Now, these are all landmarks. The numbers, the hash, the numbers, they're landmarks. So, first one would be 2 side skips. We would do 2 side skips to side lunges to the left and right. We would do facing one way. So say I'm right here, facing that way. I would do 2 side skips, 2 lunges to the hash mark. 2 side skips, 2 lunges. 2 side skips, 2 lunges. When I hit the hash mark, I would turn and jog. So now I'm running, jogging, jog. I'd hit this hash mark, I'd turn the other way. 2 and 2, all right? Yes, jogging is a dynamic warm-up. Jogging, that's why people do it, for a warm-up. All right, so we would end up over here. Next exercise would be lunges to crab walks. We would lunge to the hash, so we're going back this way. We'd lunge it out, working on mechanics, really looking strong, feeling strong, none of this crap. All right, trying to look to see if coach is watching. All right, skipping reps. Y'all laugh because you know it's true. You get to the hash mark, I would jog across, we would jog across, back to the other side, and then we'd have crab walks. So now it'd be facing that way, crab walking. This is a great move. We all know low pad level wins. We all get that. Kids don't, but we do, right? So I got to be low. Now we also know we got to have a base. A lot of kids do this right here. The moment on the football field I get here, I get juked out, I get ran over, I'm weak. I'm not a good football player. But if I stay here, I can hit somebody, I can block somebody, I can sit in the pocket longer. We got to teach these guys this. So again, we're not just warming up, we're teaching discipline, we're teaching movements we're going to use on the field. Okay? So we'd end up back over here with crab walks. We would face that way, hit the numbers, flip the other way, work the other way. I always tell my receivers, grab your guns. Just in a game, I'm going to come up and block. I'm going to grab my guns and shoot, right? Grab your guns like Texas Cowboys. All right, here we go. Next up would be back pedal. You'd back pedal to the hash, turn and jog, mummy walks to the numbers, working on hip flexion, maintaining stability to the numbers, and then the rest of it would be skips. We'd end up over here. Going back would be A skips to the hash, jog across, B skips, pushing the heel out. That's on the top speed program. Inchworms. Guys hate this move. It's my favorite move ever. I love it because it teaches what you feel like for the day. You know you're going to have a good day of practice depending on how this felt. If this hurt, if you couldn't do this, you're probably going to have a rough day at practice. That means your hamstrings are probably tight, your back's probably locked up, or you just don't have good mobility. So here's an inchworm. Touch your toes, you walk out, drop your hips, breathe, hips go up. This is the hard part. Tippy-toeing, keeping your legs straight. Linemen do this quick. Weak athletes do this quick. We got to build mobility. Walk back out. All right, as soon as you get to the number or the hash, you jog all the way across. High knee to the numbers, get a lot of reps in. Butt kicks the other way, okay? By this point, you should be sweating your ass off. Should be heart going. You should be thinking, damn, I can't wait till we get out of this crap so I can go actually play some football. All right, exaggerated karaoke. We'd face that way. Really drive the knee up. I see a lot of guys here, and I think it's more of a soccer thing. They don't really load up. They kind of just do that, which is good. That's not bad. That's going to warm you up. But we want our guys to have loose hips, right, to drop into our coverage or to be able to juke, spin, whatever. So make sure you load your hips up, crank it, and then crank it over. Okay, so my hips were that way. Now they're this way. Okay, left and right. So I'd face if we started here, I'd face that way. Then when I got here after my jog, I'd face this way and work the other side. Okay? exaggerated because you're exaggerating the twist and the knee drive. And then position starts. Again, you should be very warm by the end of this. Position starts. We'd have all our, whatever you started with, we'd have a quarterback captain, we'd have a receiver captain, a DB, a linebacker. So they're all different positions, right? Lineman, whatever. You get started, and then it would be build it up. Full speed through the hash, and then jog it all the way across. Full speed to the far hash. Full speed down and back, we're ready for practice. Okay, by that point, these guys should be huffing and puffing. Maybe give them a quick swig, because that's a lot of work to do. All right? Give them a quick splash of water. Hydration should have came before anyway, so it's not they need to be at the water hose forever, but just let them wash their mouth out real quick. All right. Again, that is a good routine to warm up pre-game or pre-practice. Okay? During game time, I wouldn't stress so much doing all the mechanics right, because if you do it right, it's going to tax you a little bit. All right? So for a practice, this is a good way to warm your team up, really hit speed mechanics, because we want our guys to get faster. All right? And wake the bodies up. But during the game, we don't want them to blow their loads before game. We want them to be feeling good before game time. We don't want them, oh, we got to play now, you know, huffing and puffing, okay? But we do got to warm them up. We used to talk about this all the time. Let's eat, right? Big dogs got to eat. Let's go eat on the field. Well, we broke it down to an acronym, our coach did. E is for effort. Got to bring effort. You got to have a good attitude for the day. If you show up to practice like, I don't want to be here, just go home. Just go home. You're not going to do us any good being like that. Have a good attitude about what you do. And then tempo. Set the tempo. You can go through the motions with your A-skips, or you can hit it like a machine, because I am a machine and I'm going to work. All right, none of these things have to do with talent, skill, height, weight, none of that. Anybody off the street can give you effort, attitude, and tempo. Static cool down. All right, cooling down now. We did this after practice. We got in a big circle. You don't have to necessarily do a circle. I think in college we did like lines. So guys would be, 5 yards apart down the field, and would be the big old stretch lines. Okay, and you have your captain say, hey, hang 10, ready, and you stretch it out. Why do we need to do a cool down stretch? For one, it enhances muscle recovery. We just worked out. We just did an hour and a half of just straight grind. We need to treat our muscles right too. We're really good at breaking it down in the gym, out on the football field. We do really good at breaking down our muscles. We don't necessarily always recover our muscles with good nutrition. Some of us just can't afford it or too lazy. But we could do things like stretching. Okay? Now, this type of static, meaning stationary, is where you hold the muscle stretched. That guy's stretching it on his own with a coach talking to him. These guys are doing inchworms, because at the top of that stretch is kind of more of a static stretch. You just kind of keep moving. These guys are doing rollovers, so they're stretching their back and their hammies, mostly the glutes and back. And this guy's holding his stretch at the top of his, hold it, feel my groin and my back, okay? So enhances muscle recovery. We got to get our guys ready for the next day. We're going to work the next day, or we got a game the next day, whatever it is. Or we got to get ready for next week. It prevents injury. It's another injury prevention thing, all right? But we use it as a cool down, not as a warm up. 10 to 15 minutes. Treat your bodies right. Care about your guy's body. You want them to go hard for you every game. But if you keep putting them to the test and always breaking them down, they're going to break. That's what happens. Treat them right. This is where you build flexibility. So think of a rubber band. We all know what a rubber band is, right? We pull a rubber band, you let it go, what happens? It shoots out. But what if I got a rubber band straight out of the freezer, out of an ice chest, and I pulled it back? What's going to happen? It's going to pop, right? Your muscles have that elasticity. They have that stretch and reflex. If I'm playing basketball and I want to go jump up to dunk it, I don't just jump like that. I mean, these guys are 6'10", so they could probably do it. But a little guy like me, I got to get low, stretch my muscle so I can spring out like a rubber band, okay? We all know, too, with a rubber band, if I pull it back and I hold it there for a day, say I put it around something huge, all right? I just let the rubber band sit around this big old board all night, and I come back tomorrow, and I pull that rubber band off, is it going to be nice and tight or is it going to be all loose? It's going to be real loose. So after practice, your muscles that are elastic, they're very loose. That's when you want to go in and get a nice deep stretch and build range of motion. Not before when you just came out of the cooler, out of class or out of work, you know, just been sitting down all day to get a deep stretch. It's not going to work. Once your body's warmed up and you've used it for the whole practice, for the workout, that's when you go in there and get a nice deep stretch. Guys, I saw it today. It's not my job to get on their ass, but I saw it today at the camp. A lot of guys are talking, right? I'm over here saying, grab your right ankle, pull your nose to your knee to get the most out of it, and they're talking. They're just like this. Oh, I'm stretching. Okay, it's your body, it's your career, it's your team that you play for. Not going to hurt me, all right? Attention to detail and everything. Builds flexibility, and it lowers your heart rate to basal metabolic rate, meaning you just get done with practice. A lot of times you end with one-on-ones or you end with a team hull or a competition. You know, so guys' rates are going. You don't just send them to the locker room. Bring their heart rate back down to basal metabolic rate. Safer, it's better for their bodies, all that stuff. Again, this is a post-practice, after-practice thing you do, or maybe even post-game. Here's an example, a routine. Hang 10. We call it hang 10 because you have 10 fingers, and you hang down, touch your toes, stretching your hamstrings. If you put your head down, you stretch your back. So right there. You can have your feet together. You can do a split stance, right and left, middle. Lateral lunge, right? Just lateral stretch. It's one of my favorites. This one I'm not that picky on. For me, I feel it right here. Some guys, they like to put that toe up and really lean. Again, that's their body. They know their range of motion. Build it. Left and right. Standing quad stretch. Stretch that quad, okay? If you got linemen or you got some weaker kids that just can't hold themselves, have them grab their partner, their buddy next to them, and they're holding on to each other. Lunge, hip extension, that's what this one is. Mark Sanchez, Tim Tebow, both clowns. Here we go. They're in a lunge, pushing their hip forward, stretching that hip extension. Butterfly stretch, we all know that one, right? Sitting on your butt, pushing your hips down, growing. Hurdler stretch, which is this one. I put it on here because I found the picture. It's a lot of, you got to have guys that know what they're doing. I wouldn't just give it to anybody, but it's on there. And then supine, all supine means is laying on your back. Prone is on your stomach, right? Supine is on your back. And you can do a knee hug. So supine, he's supinated, and he's pulling his knee. He's doing a knee hug like that. And then the pretzel, all that is you pull your knee. I'm sorry. You're here. I always demonstrate my stuff. Here, pull your knee. You're in a pretzel, stretching your glute. It's a very good one. So that's an example of the routine, cool down routine. I added this. I used to have this on my speed and agility, but I added to this. I never found out how bad I was as I got older into college of how much your back and your hips play a big role in things. And I'm sure all of us now have some sort of hip or back problem, not injury, but problems. So I'm going to go over some mobility. A floor series is just everything you do on the floor. So that's why I have it floor series. Cat-cow. That here it is right here. He has his back up, arched like a mad cat. We all seen a mad cat. He puts his head down, he's stretching your back. And then he put his stomach down like a fat cow right there. So cow, cat. Opens up the back. Hip bridge. Here's a single leg hip bridge. He's making a bridge with his hips and his leg. All right, so that's single leg. That's a very good hamstring builder. You see guys preparing for the combine do this with a weight on their, like a bar and 45s, and they're really focusing on the hip drive. Because when you run fast, your hips are forward and up. They're not back. You don't run like this. You open up and push. Also opens up that hip mobility, though, or builds hip mobility. Leg raises, you're on your back and you're just straight up lifting your leg, working on hip flexion. No weight, just that. Donkey kicks, it's kind of like this. You're in the 4-point stance, but instead of opening up, you just donkey kick back. Fire hydrants is this. So now he has his leg up like he's pissing on a fire hydrant like a dog, right? That's a great one. If I had one of you guys do it, it would be like, oh, it's tight. So you got to build that range of motion. Hip circles, you put the donkey kick and the fire hydrant, and then you bring it over. You're learning how to move your hip, learning how to build range of motion. It should feel like a nice clean circle. Some of us have like a square. Shouldn't have that. Lateral leg, you're here, leg straight out, and you move it straight up. Again, I'd have one of you guys do it, and your muscle would just cramp up. It means you're tight, or it means it's a weak muscle. Build it. Rear leg raise, leg straight out. You're in that position, but your leg is straight out, and you just work on your glute, working on the extension of your hip. Knee to pit. That one hurts too. Imagine doing this, getting your knee to your armpit, but laying straight flat on the ground. So if this is the ground, I'll just use the wall for example. This is the ground, and I'm trying to get my knee to my hip. A lot of guys can't, they do this, and then their body moves. Shouldn't be able to do that. Scorpion stretch, good for the back right here. Bringing his leg over like a scorpion. That's his stinger, and he's trying to sting. All right, so you start here, take one leg over, take the other leg over. So hip and back mobility, I used to do it pre-practice, and then if I really needed it, I'd do it after practice. Because I knew my body, I had to take care of it. Because I knew that if I didn't take care of it, I wasn't going to practice the next day, and somebody was going to take my spot. And if they kept taking my spot, they might take my scholarship, which is money. Didn't want that to happen, so I took care of my body. No one told me to do this. I put it on myself to do it. The trainers did after I got hurt, but I kept it up. So that is it. Any questions?
What would be the 2 or 3 main stretches that you would recommend to do every day or after every practice? Just 2 or 3 that you think are really, really important. I'm also asking for me because I'm a coach now, but my back is, after practice, feels like...
So you want to warm up or to cool down?
To cool down.
To cool down. And your back, lower back?
Lower back. But just in general, 2 or 3 main stretches that you would recommend to do for a cool down after practice.
Fire hydrants for sure. Okay, because I know you're thinking, well, that's kind of hip, coach. But your body's a machine. It all works together. So yes, our back hurts. That's where the pain's at. But that doesn't necessarily mean that's where the problem's at. Could be my groin. Could be my glutes. Could be my hip flexor. And it's because this area is tight, when my back does extra work, it overcompensates to help this out, so that locks up. Okay, so scorpion stretch, for sure. It's going to hurt. You got to breathe. Make sure you breathe. If not, you're going to pop your rubber bands. Don't pop your rubber bands. Make sure they're loose. All right? Scorpion stretch, cat-cow, pretty much all these, man. Just
pretty much all of these routines.
I mean, this is a lot more, this is all good hip and back mobility, but I know that this right here really helps my hip area, my glutes. That's a good one. That one for sure is all back. You're just loosening up your back right there. And scorpion stretch for sure. That's more of a hip mobility, hip circles, yeah. So again, this is the full hip circle, coach. You're here, you go up, you go out, you go around without doing all this crap. Staying straight. Fire hydrants, donkey kicks, hip bridge, and cat-cow. So I would do these 4 pretty much every day, really stretch it out. But it also, too, of how you warm up your back. So, yes, the normal warm-up you do, the A-skips, everything, too, but even more so, like foam rolling. You know what foam rolling is?
Yeah.
Right? Really foam roll those glutes. That's our biggest muscle in our body. Use it for everything. Warm it up good, and then cool it down good, too. So I'd recommend those for sure for your back. Any other questions? Nope. All right. The paper's over there.
Sorry, a stupid question.
No such
Can you
thing.
show me the scorpion stretch?
All right. Scorpion stretch. All right. Here we go. I'm here. My hands are out to a T. All right. And I'm going to bring my opposite foot to my opposite arm. This is supposed to be like my scorpion tail, right? So I'm stinging the ground. But notice how my shoulder came up. That's compensation. My body knows it can't just go all the way over. Girls can. Younger, girls are flexible. And younger athletes are. But as I go up, over, I need to push my shoulder back down. And then I come back and go the other way. And push my shoulder back down. Anything else? Thank you, guys.